Hello, everyone. Uh, so Virgo, they broke your heart, not metaphorically. Um, Not in the way people use that phrase casually, like an inconvenience, like a disappointment, like something that stung for a week and then filed itself away. Actually broke it in the way that produces a before and after. Um, a version of you that existed before them and a version that had to be rebuilt after. And the rebuilding, uh, however far along it is still happening. You can tell by the fact that you're here, um, still looking for something, um, still needing to understand what's next, which means the chapter isn't fully closed. Um, and today, we're going to be honest about why. The honest truth piece. That's what this reading is promising. An honest truth in the context of heartbreak is rarely the comfortable version. It's not the version that validates every feeling, um, not the version that assigns all the weight to them and none to the complexity of what actually happened. Honest truth. Um, the real kind holds multiple things simultaneously. It holds, they hurt you. And the situation was more complicated than the hurt alone. It holds, um, your pain is valid. And the story you're telling about it might not be entirely accurate. Um, it holds what they did affected you, and what comes next depends entirely on what you do with the affecting. Uh, both things, every time, um, without collapsing into either they were entirely wrong or it was entirely my fault, um, because neither of those is honest. Um, and only honest, as uncomfortable as it is, produces the kind of clarity that actually moves you forward. Uh, let's start with them because that's where the attention has probably been in the replaying, in the analyzing, in the trying to understand what they did and why they did it and whether it meant what it seemed to mean. Um, Here's the honest truth about the person who broke your heart, not the villainized version, not the saint version, um, the human one. They were limited in specific ways, um, ways that possibly had nothing to do with how much they cared about you, and everything to do with what they were capable of, their capacity for communication, for consistency, for the specific kind of showing up that you needed, um, had a ceiling. Um, and that ceiling, not their feelings for you, is what produced the break. Um, and here's where honest truth gets uncomfortable. You probably knew about the ceiling. before the break. Um, Not fully, um, not with the clarity that comes after, but you knew. Um, there were signals, there were moments where something in you registered, uh, this person cannot do what I need them to do. And the response, uh, completely human, completely understandable, um, was to override that registration with hope, with the belief that love was enough to raise ceilings, um, with the specific generosity that people extend to the people they love, of continuing to give benefit of the doubt past the point where doubt is the more accurate response. Uh, that's not a failure. That's love doing what love does. Believing in people further than the evidence strictly supports, because the feeling says there's more there. Sometimes that belief is what allows someone to become more. And sometimes the ceiling is the ceiling, and no amount of belief raises it. And this was one of those times. This reflection invites you to consider what was the moment you actually knew. Before the break, um, that something was wrong, um, not suspected. Um, Knew the specific, quiet, pre verbal moment when something in your body went still, uh, in a way that wasn't peace, but was recognition. What did you do with that moment? And what does knowing when that moment was tell you about what to watch for, um, in the connections that come after this one? Because that moment and what you did with it is actually the most important information this entire experience produced. Hmm. More than anything about them, about you, and what you do with knowing the next time knowing arrives. Uh, Now, the honest truth about the heartbreak itself, because heartbreak, real heartbreak, the kind that produces a before and after, is not just about the person who left. Um, it's about the future that left with them, the specific version of your life that you had been building, quietly, privately, in the background of everything that had them in it. The imagined mornings, the imagined conversations, the imagined version of yourself, in the context of being loved by them, that you are slowly growing into. Uh, when they left, um, all of that left too, not just them, the future you'd been building around them, and grieving a future that never actually existed, is a strange and under-acknowledged form of loss. Uh, because how do you grieve something that wasn't real yet? Um, how do you mourn the mornings that never happened? The version of yourself you are becoming in a context that no longer exists. Um, you grieve it the same way you grieve anything real, because to you, it was real. It lived in you. Uh, and things that live in you, even if they never materialized externally, are as real as anything that did. Uh, Give that grief its due. Not indefinitely, but it's due, because grief that isn't given its due uh, doesn't disappear. It migrates into the next connection, into the way you receive the next person who tries to get close, um, into the specific, quiet unavailability of someone who is technically present, but still partially living in the grieved future. Uh, Grieve it here. Now. So it doesn't have to migrate. Here's what's next. Um, the part the title says is so important to know. And I'm going to be honest, which means this might not be what you were hoping to hear. Um, what's next um, is not determined by them, not by whether they come back, not by whether they realize what they lost, um, not by whether the universe orchestrates some convergence, some moment of clarity on their end that brings them back to your door with the understanding they didn't have before. Um, that might happen. Um, it might not. Um, and here's the honest truth: what's next cannot be contingent on which one it is, um, cannot be held in suspension, um, waiting for the answer to that question before it's allowed to begin. Because suspension, the specific, quiet, half present state of someone who is technically living their life, but actually waiting for one person to make one decision that determines whether the life is worth fully inhabiting, is not living. Um, it's waiting dressed up as living. And you, the specific, particular, irreplaceable you, uh, deserve an actual life, not the suspended version, um, not the version that's on hold pending someone else's decision, the full version, um, the one that moves regardless of what they decide, because the movement belongs to you and has always belonged to you, uh, and never actually required their participation to be real. What's next, concretely, is the reclamation, um, not of them, um, of you, the parts of yourself that got quietly handed over, not in a single dramatic gesture, but gradually, incrementally, in this small daily adjustments of someone who was prioritizing another person's comfort, um, over their own wholeness. uh, the opinions that got softened, um, the needs that got minimized, the version of yourself that existed before them, unapologetic, specific, taking up its full amount of space, um, that quietly contracted in the context of trying to make the connection work. Reclaim that. Um, Not as a dramatic declaration, uh, as a quiet, daily, incremental returning to the full version of yourself, the one who knows what she wants, who says what she thinks, um, who takes up the space she's entitled to without the constant monitoring of whether that space is acceptable to someone else. Um, that version, uh, the full uncontracted, nobody is watching version, is what's next. And it's also, for what it's worth, uh, the version most likely to attract something genuinely better than what just ended. Because that version, the full one, doesn't attract people who need you to be smaller. It attracts people who can match the size. Uh, and matching, real matching, not ceiling hitting, is what you deserved all along. This reflection invites you to consider, what did you give up? Quietly, incrementally, in the context of this relationship, um, that you want back, not what they took, what you handed over willingly in the interest of the connection. Um, that now, on the other side of it, you recognize as something that was actually yours to keep. Name it. One thing, specifically. And then start taking it back today, uh, in one small, concrete way. Because reclamation, like grief, happens incrementally, um, one returned piece at a time, until the full version is back and standing and recognizably yours. Uh, Now, the honest truth about them coming back, because that question, whether it's been asked consciously or not, is probably present. It tends to be in the early and middle stages of heartbreak. It tends to be the background hum of almost every quiet moment. Will they? Uh, and if they do, what then? Uh, the honest truth about whether they come back is that it depends on what changed, not whether they miss you. They probably do. Missing is not the relevant variable. People miss things they aren't capable of maintaining. People miss things they chose to leave. Um, and the missing doesn't change the capacity that produced the leaving. What changed if anything, in the ceiling that was the actual problem, not in their feelings, um, in their capacity, um, their willingness to do the internal work. Uh, Uncomfortable, unglamorous, nobody watching internal work that would be required for a return to produce a different outcome than the first attempt. Um, if that work has been done um, demonstrably, behaviorally over time, then a return might be worth considering with open eyes, with clear terms, um, with the full reclaimed version of yourself, doing the considering um, rather than the version that was contracted and hopeful and willing to overlook the ceiling. And if the work hasn't been done, if what returns is the same person with the same ceiling, wearing the packaging of having missed you, then the honest truth is the return would produce the same outcome, uh, different timeline, um, same destination. And you having already paid the cost of that destination once, deserve not to pay it again. Um, Watch for the work, not the words, um, not the missing, not the grand gesture, the work, quiet, uh, sustained, um, demonstrated in behavior over time. That's the only data that matters. This reflection invites you to consider what would you need to see, not hear, to believe that a return would be genuinely different. Specifically, um, behaviorally, um, in the ordinary moments, not the grand ones, uh, that demonstrate actual change rather than performed change. Um, because knowing that answer clearly in advance means you don't decide from the feeling of being wanted again. You decide from the evidence. And evidence in heartbreak recovery is the only currency that actually protects you from making the same investment uh, in the same ceiling twice. Here is what's actually most important to know, more than whether they come back, um, more than what they're doing now, more than whether they regret it or miss you, uh, or have finally understood what they had. What's most important to know is that you survived this, not gracefully necessarily, not without cost, not without the specific damage that real heartbreak produces in real people, but survived, uh, and surviving in this context means something specific. Uh, it means you are more resilient than you gave yourself credit for before this happened, more capable of rebuilding than you knew because you'd never had to rebuild from quite this. Um, More fundamentally okay. Um, at your core, underneath everything that hurts, than the heartbreak has been able to reach. Uh, that okayness, the core version, the one that persisted through the break, is yours. Um, was always yours, predates them, survives them, and will be the foundation of everything that comes next. Whether they're in it or not, the power is yours. Um, it always has been. What's next? Um, the honest answer is you, uh, reclaimed, rebuilt, um, standing fully in the space you're entitled to without anyone's permission, um, without anyone's return required to make that standing feel legitimate. And you, uh, whole is what's next. Um, and whole, when it arrives, um, attracts differently than broken did, recognizes differently, accepts differently, builds differently. Um, whole is where this is going. It has been since the break, even when it didn't feel like it, even in the moments that felt like going backward, even in the nights that didn't feel like progress at all, um, uh, it was still going somewhere. It still is, um, toward you, standing in the full version of yourself, um, choosing from wholeness uh, rather than from the wound. That's what's next. Um, that's what's always been next. And it's closer than the heartbreak has been letting you believe. Take what resonates, softly release the rest. Trust yourself. That's everything today. Um, go reclaim one thing, just one uh, that got quietly handed over. That's where next begins. Um, not with them, with you, um, always with you. Um, take care.